I'm always amazed hosting this podcast. We talk to different people in different parts of government, outside it, inside it. How much of the time the rub is getting Congress to do its appropriate role, especially keeping agencies within what their role is supposed to be, or sometimes filling their role. But it's pretty clear to me that the overreach or disobedience, non-compliance maybe that we see amongst a lot of these agencies is a real problem.
So it's not just the VA either. It's so many other agencies. And I have said this over and over again to people I talk with. The amount of agencies that believe when Congress passes a law that it is a suggestion instead of a law. And we have to make sure that they understand it's the law. And, over the oversight that we've had in the last couple of years of the VA during the Biden administration.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential.
Welcome to the American Potential Podcast. I'm the host, David Fromm. When someone risks their life in service to this country and is in need of quality health care, getting medical care should be the least of their worries. But we've heard from veterans on this podcast who have had to drive to another state just to see a doctor or wait months for care that they need. We've also had concerned Veterans for America on to discuss the Mission Act, a law that was designed to improve access to care in response to the Phoenix VA scandal. But when COVID hit and under the Biden administration, veterans started facing challenges again because the Mission Act wasn't being followed, and our veterans deserve better. There's a new bill that has been introduced called the Veterans Access Act that would offer veterans more control over their health care, and today's guest is the sponsor of that bill. He was raised in Southern Illinois, and he answered the call to serve right out of high school by joining the Marines. After his honorable discharge, he went into the private sector, working for a trucking company before stepping up as a firefighter to serve his community. He then spent 2 decades fighting for conservative values in the Illinois State House before heading to Washington. Now, as a representative for Illinois' 12th Congressional District and the chair of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, he's standing up for veterans who have served, making sure our nation keeps its promises to our veterans. I want to welcome to the podcast Chairman of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, Mike Bost.
David, thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, Congressman. It's a real pleasure. So, everyone knows you're from Illinois. People who listen here know that I've been involved in Illinois politics, still live in Illinois. So we all bear that burden. But, I've heard that your favorite political figure is actually a fellow Illinoisan. Who is it and why?
My favorite it was John A. Logan. Oh, you mean of today?
Oh, whatever.
John A. Logan was a major political figure of mine. And the reason being is one, I'm from Murfreesboro, and that was his farm was subdivided to create the town of Murfreesboro, the county seat of Jackson County. So he was raised right there. Matter of fact, his house, the house that I was born and raised in, and the house that I came home from the Marine Corps and bought from my parents and spent 10 years raising my children there, was a house that my great-grandmother bought from his dad. Actually bought the property and then built the house there. But John Logan also was a citizen's soldier. He fought in the Civil War, and he formed up the first veterans service organization and was one of their first commandants, and that was for the Grand Army of the Republic. And therefore, and also his 11th General Order is what formed and created Memorial Day. So I've kind of got my history on him pretty well, and so it's amazing history right there.
Wow, I know a lot about Illinois political history and history in general, and I didn't know any of that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And remember, when you know the Illinois song, which I'm sure you do, remember there's only 3 people mentioned in the Illinois song: Lincoln, Grant, and Logan, Illinois.
Wow. That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's great. Well, I mean, you mentioned that, and we mentioned before that you served in the Marine Corps. Can you share, why you wanted to enlist and just what was
first off, my dad and his brothers were all Army, Korean War. My true grandfather was Navy, Second World War, but I didn't know him. He on my mother's side, he died in a car wreck about 6 months after my mom and dad were married, and they were married very young. But then the grandfather I knew that then married my grandmother, he was a Marine, and he and I were very, very close. His son was a Marine. My uncle was a Marine during Vietnam and was a victim of the ultimate oxymoron, which is friendly fire. And after being hit in Vietnam, he did not pass. He woke up 8 weeks later in a hospital in Virginia. And he has been 100% disabled. He's still alive and doing well, but the VA has taken care of his needs as a 100% disabled veteran, even though he's had a successful career as a postmaster and had his own business and everything like that. At any rate, I went into the Marine Corps. I was in the family trucking business just out of high school, but I had a accident on a motorcycle. I was laying, unfortunately, now we get feed from videos all the time on what's going on in the world and 24-hour news network. Back then, you didn't get that. But while I was at home, not on the truck, is when the Iran hostage situation broke out. So 3 days after the taking of our hostages, I went and joined the United States Marine Corps because at that time I was 18 years old. In the words of Marines, 10 foot tall and bulletproof. So I thought, woke up in Marine Corps boot camp and realized I just want to survive Marine Corps boot camp. But that being said, that's when I joined, served 3 years during peacetime. If you remember, we never went into that conflict, even though I thought we would have. I was an electronic specialist, radar repairman, served 3 years active, 6 years total, and 3 years inactive reserve is what you did then. You made a 6-year commitment. During my time in, I had 2 children born, and my third was born out of that. But then my oldest, my son Stephen, is now a lieutenant colonel. Reserve JAG. He's a judge in the First Circuit of the state of Illinois, but he's also a judge in the Marine Corps. He was many years active in the Marine Corps. And then my grandson, not his son, but my daughter's son, Spencer, just finished 4 years in the Corps where he was an F-18 mechanic as well. He was a corporal when he got out. So it's kind of this is a passion where I grew up. We serve. That's what we do. We don't always have to serve, become lifetime members of the military. My son has chose to do that. Others have chose to do that. But we feel like it's kind of an obligation to serve for the freedoms that we have. But with that, I've had an opportunity to, know and understand what veterans deal with, that there are a rating on veterans. For instance, if you are a decorated, disabled combat veteran, you're way high up on the list of those that are going to be prepared for. If you're a decorated combat veteran, then you're there. If you're a combat veteran, you're there. Then if you're a non-combat veteran, full-time veteran like I, then you're at that level. Then there's also the reservists, unless those reservists have so many months and or years under Article 12 orders. This is all, I know this is kind of wonky and gets into but your veterans are going to know this.
Yeah.
Okay, if they're reservists, if you're under Title 32 orders, those don't qualify for active duty, but Title 12 does. So knowing and understanding what veterans deal with and the problems that they face and dealing with the VA is, and if I ever thought this corporal from the Marine Corps would have ever been chairman of the VA, I'm blessed beyond measure to serve in this capacity, but it is serving the veterans. It's not the title or anything like that. Hopefully we make things better for them.
Well, it's kind of the beauty of our democratic system a little bit, that a corporal who had been prepared by a lot of family experience, and now you have more family experience in terms of like your son and others, but that you can bring that perspective and, really make it a huge difference in, the care veterans can get and
We hope so, because a lot of it is, look, when you are side by side with veterans, not only in your family, but there's a lot of friends, and it becomes this camaraderie. But you also find out the positive things and the negative things that they've experienced with the VA. I've also experienced that. I've been denied based on the fact I had a hearing loss based on the Marine Corps, on what happened in the Marine Corps. I've went through this process, and because of that, that's a whole lot of the things that I can argue for. And a lot of things I haven't went through, but because of this position and the ability to deal with the veterans in my home community and in my district and around this nation, I can find out, hey, they're having problems with this particular, or as we're working on this bill that we're going to talk about, that is a case where, look, we made in the Mission Act several years ago, which was adding on to an existing bill that because the Community Care Act was not working right, so we got the Mission Act to try to make it work better. And now my hope is to even make it work better, because for some reason, people, not all, because let me tell you, a lot of people that are working at the VA, they truly are for the veteran. But there are some of those that are around on the VA and some that are in our committee and that are more worried about protecting the bureaucracy than protecting the veteran. And that's not what the VA was created for. The VA was not created for the VA. The VA was created for the veteran. And our goal should be very clear. Try the best we can to bring that veteran back as close to the healthy status they were and the life that they had the day they raised their hand and took that oath to join the military. And that's what the VA is supposed to be about.
Well, so what role did the Biden administration coming in and COVID play in kind of seemed like diminishing veteran care?
Yeah. I think what happened, look, the VA footprint is divided up into VISNs. And if you go to one VISN, they do the Mission Act well. And the Mission Act is very simple. If a veteran needs services and the VA can't provide it, either because of distance or because they are busy or because the veteran and their doctor have now agreed and said, no, we need to go outside the system to do this, then that's real clear. The law is very clear. Then we do that. But unfortunately, some of those VISNs during COVID, but not only during COVID, even after COVID, they have decided that as a bureaucrat, they're going to make a decision that no, we're going to protect the VA and we can provide this at the VA. You're just going to have to wait a little longer. Or you might not get the quality services or you're going to have to travel a lot farther. The thing is, many of the people that are even members of Congress that are on the committee that will argue and say, oh, no, we don't want to expand the community care process because they say, because it's going to lead to privatization. It doesn't lead to privatization. It leads to the fact that the veteran is going to be served where they are, when they need it, and how they need it. And what happens is, if you are a member of Congress and you're living, let's say, in L.A., guess what? Your constituents that are veterans have many veteran services right down the road. Right down the road. Now, they might not be able to get to them right away, so that's why they have community care there. But if you're living in Montana, I'm going to tell you, getting to a VA is not quite easy, and depends on where you're at. Even in Illinois, you could have several hours drive to get to a VA. The idea and intent is that the veteran receives the help they need, when they need it, where they need it. Can you imagine being diagnosed with cancer and the VA telling you, hey, you know what, it's an aggressive cancer, but we'll be able to get you in 3 months? No, not a good answer for those people who have served us the best.
So you've introduced this new legislation, called the Veterans Access Act, and access is veterans assuring critical care expansion to support service members. I love that Congress does that all the time.
The acronym.
I don't know how people come up with that make them work so well. Just
staff works hard at that.
I like to think there's one genius who does it for everybody, but I know it's not the case. But so where did the idea come from, and what would the bill do?
So basically, what it does is we feel like those of us who were around when passed the Mission Act, that the Mission Act by itself should have been very, very clear. But apparently some bureaucrats have trouble understanding the law. And the law is not a suggestion, it's the law. And so this is another attempt to go into better detail to understand that when a veteran needs health care, regardless of what that health care is, the VA does not have does not control the strings. The doctor and the patient control the strings on when and where that health care can best be provided, and the VA then covers it. That's the way it's supposed to work, and that's what this is doing. It's expanding what we did in the Mission Act to make sure that we're doing exactly what meant most of I would say all of the legislators who voted for it were promised in the Mission Act. But once again, we're going into greater detail so that each vision, not just a few, are doing exactly what they're supposed to do around this nation, around this world, and that's providing the best health care for our veterans, either inside or outside of VA. I don't care if it's inside or outside. I wanted to make sure that it's for the veteran, that the doctor and the veteran agree that this is the best service for them, that it's available to them quickly, and it's available to them at the level that they need with their particular condition.
I'm always amazed hosting this podcast. We talk to different people in different parts of government, outside it, inside it, how much of the time the rub is getting Congress to do its appropriate role, especially keeping agencies within what their role is supposed to be, or sometimes filling their role. But it's pretty clear to me that the overreach or disobedient non-compliance maybe that we see amongst a lot of these agencies is a real problem.
So it's not just the VA either. It's so many other agencies. And I have said this over and over again to people I talk with. The amount of agencies that believe when Congress passes a law that it is a suggestion instead of a law. And we have to make sure that they understand it's the law. And, over the oversight that we've had in the last couple of years of the VA during the Biden administration, there were several things that we caught them doing, and that's why we have oversight, not just on my bill and this side, but we're talking sexual harassment within the agency, that the person that was supposed to be controlling sexual harassment agency-wise was actually sexually harassing, and we caught that situation. We have administrators that were supposed to be giving, after COVID, bonuses to the docs and the nurses and the frontline workers to keep them from going into the private sector, but keep them where we can provide for our veterans at the level we need to because of all the outside influences. And those bonuses were then distributed in the upper echelon administration where it was never supposed to go. And when they got caught, though it wasn't supposed to do that, they just kind of shrugged it off and said, "Oh, we're sorry." No, these are the type things. As I said, the law applies. That's why we pass it. And you and I both know Illinois, and the one thing that does happen, I wish we would do it in Congress, and we should. In Illinois, whenever we pass a law, we've got the JCAR committee, Joint Committee on Senate and House Rules, that the rules are implemented until they come back to a nonpartisan or a bipartisan, bicameral, evenly balanced committee to say, yeah, that's exactly what we're supposed to do. We don't really do that in Congress. Maybe we should. I believe that'd be a good idea. But, and that's where it boils down. Agencies kind of like go rogue. And we've got to stop bureaucrats from going rogue and start making bureaucrats follow the law so that it's the benefit for the people who are to receive it. And in this case, it's the veterans that are the ones that should benefit.
Yeah, well, what do you think, if you'd be specific about what part of this bill do you think is going to be most beneficial to veterans?
I think the most beneficial part is, and it's all beneficial, so we got to make sure it's all out there, okay? And each part is vitally important. But right now, the mental health part is probably what I see as one of the most important, because if you call and you're in need of mental health treatment, you don't have time for the VA to say, hey, we can get you in a month and a half from now, maybe. Especially whenever we have the suicide rate at, right now the count, it says it's 17. I think it's higher than that. 17 a day. All right. When a person is dealing with mental health issues, we need it right now. And it is this bill, I think, that the most important part is, yes, all those other services, if you have cancer, you want it right now, you want to do this, but mental health, especially those that might be on the verge of suicide, bang, that's what the importance of the bill is.
Yeah, that is huge. I mean, it's just been such an acute problem. I'm sure you're far better versed than I am, but even just from my perch, it's such a huge problem that it just breaks your heart.
We've got to stop people taking a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah, amen. Well, just kind of want to ask quickly about the process. So, get the bill introduced, comes before your committee. I hope it passes your committee.
We will do what's known as regular order. We're going to have a hearing process on the bill, along with other bills, and then we will move that out of committee. My hope is to move it as quickly as possible to get it to the floor. The bright side about this is my good friend and chairman in the Senate, Jerry Moran, has the bill as well. So we will be moving in a bicameral manner. I believe it will draw bipartisan support. I pray it draws bipartisan support. So my intent is to move it out of committee as quick as we can, onto the floor as quick as we can, to the Senate and to the president's desk, because I think it would be a true victory for our veterans around this world. And I would say the nation, but remember, our veterans are all over this world.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So, I mean, I know you said that you think it'll attract bipartisan support. That'd be fabulous.
I hope so.
What are the major objections to folks who oppose this bill?
That's just it. I explained that earlier. We've got several Democrats that keep saying, oh, no, this is just a path down privatization. No one on the Republican side of the aisle has ever said that we're not wanting to privatize. But we do want to make sure that the veterans are being taken care of and they're not trapped in a bureaucracy of only go to the VA, only receive your help there, and if you're on a wait list, just get over it. Or when we get around to you, we're going to take care of you. Or, we're kind of spread out here. The reality is we need to make sure that, as I've said so many times in this interview and so many others, when the veteran needs it, at the request of the doctor and the veteran, where they need it, so that it is quick and the health care, mental or physical, that they need at the time, right then. Because many of these things are times you can't wait.
I'm so appreciative that, I know that you're a veteran yourself. You have a lot of family members who've been veterans, but I mean, to have someone with your passion and knowledge to be working on such an important commitment that we've made. I've been an observer and participant in Illinois politics for the last 30 years and some of our folks watching this might remember, you on the House floor as a state rep, basically giving voice to what so many of us are feeling, throwing the papers up in the air and exclaiming, just like, what is going on here? This is absurd.
But it did take 17 years to blow up like that, just so you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that shows self-control.
It took that long to blow up on that social media picked it up. Let's say that.
Yeah. Did you ever think you're going to be viral back then?
I did not. And believe me, because that was fairly new time on social media. And you and I both remember a particular wonderful floor leader from Danville by the name of Bill Black, who quite often had the times where he would act out and on the House floor, but he never had that social media.
Yep.
But that's being said, if that passion is about the people and not about the act, then it's the right thing to do.
Well, I guess my point is I want a guy with that passion who was raging again in a very justified way. If you've been subject to Illinois, politics all the time, fighting for our veterans and trying to improve their lives. I mean, I'm pretty darn happy that you're in that chairman spot making this happen, and super appreciative for what you're doing.
As I said, I never thought this corporal would have the honor to serve the great men and women who have served this nation in every branch of our service. And like I said, I was a non-combat veteran, but I have seen some of the best and their families, by the way, who are caregivers and or passionate about their own veteran who maybe can't take care of themselves now.
Yeah. Well, Chairman, I'm so appreciative for you joining us and informing our people about this. I know our partners at Concerned Veterans for America will be super engaged on this.
Well, thank you and thank them, because, our veterans, being the voice for our veterans is so vitally important, because remember, if veterans themselves don't step forward and fight for our veterans who can't fight for themselves, the bureaucrats will take this and just want to make it a program that works for them and not work for the veteran.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. Well, it's pretty unfortunate that another bill has to be introduced just so veterans can get the health care they deserve.
Yep.
But the good news is the bill would bring more transparency to veterans' health care and help fix some of the scheduling issues that have made access, so difficult.
Yep.
So
it is about the veteran.
Yeah, if you've listened to this episode and want to let your lawmakers know you support it, but aren't sure, what to say, our friends at Concerned Veterans for America have made it easy. They've put together a simple letter you can sign to show your support. The link to the letter is in the description on the podcast. If you like this episode and would like to stay connected, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Always remember, as I'm sure Chairman Bost agrees, liberty and freedom are easily taken for granted. Please don't take it for granted. Go out there and defend freedom and liberty. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.